I like to start at the edge of the piece as well, so that I have that guideline to go off. Keep a light touch as you're working with your pen. And don't worry too much about filling in every area. As we come back with the water, it will lighten up and bleed, because that's the whole idea with watercolor. I think I'm going to do a little light gray as well. And I rotate my pen as I go along. Just so you guys can start to see some effects taking shape. Can I just blot a little bit on my hand? I haven't committed to doing the black outline yet, which is why I'm trying to be inside this first line. Think about elephant skin. Hopefully you've seen one. If not, find some photos online and book you a trip when you can to see an elephant. They're beautiful, smart creatures. Their skin is textured, which is why the watercolor works so beautifully with them. Going back to light gray. Using the very pointy edge, I will do a gray line around the ear. I've noticed with my particular pens that the black isn't all that black, and so which I like, so I probably will also come back in with that shortly. So you'll find as you work with your pens, if that's what you're choosing to use, you do get more control, which is nice. Again, I am, in my opinion, a complete novice when it comes to watercolor. I do it because it's fun and relaxing. All these strokes are super light. I kind of use an angle and go about it that way. And since I did have a water blob there, I'm just gonna go back in, add some more ink. This is the dark gray, just what I picked up first. Just adding a little bit of water to start blending back in some colors. I've been flirting with upgrading to actual pens for this water part. At minimum, a fine small brush and a glass of water. Because as much as I enjoyed the squeezing of this when I first got started, which was during quarantine, I'm not gonna lie, it was great, it was convenient, but I think I've moved past that at this point. So since I'm flirting with these lines, I'm gonna grab my black, there it is, and just have a little look-see on what that looks like. I'm still not going past the line, just kind of wiggling it there a little bit. Dragging some of the dark back up the line of the elephant's back. They're supposed to be the wrinkles. A lot of people have back fat, including elephants. No shame in that. Yeah, I like the look of that a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and commit to the next one. Again, just very lightly, very, very lightly with the tip going back and forth. And I'm going to bring some of this black back in underneath the ear as well. So as much as I enjoy hopping around a piece normally, I've learned that with this process, it's better just to find an area and work with it. back up on the dark gray. Also, if you've never done watercolor before, this is a 140-pound weight, which means that it's thicker, not the thickest out there. But you will see that if you do too much water, it will start to buckle a little bit. So just keep that in mind. Again, I enjoy the buckling. It gives you some dimension to these cards. Otherwise, you just wind up, you know, just go buy a regular greeting card from the store. The whole idea with this is that there is texture and there is dimension. And the homemade element is there. Actually, this is the dark gray. Good. Okay. So, if our sun is coming this way, then it would not be as black in the front. Switching back to dark gray. So my strokes when I'm around the curve follow it, and because the ear would, if it were three-dimensional, would go the opposite way, that's how I'll bring the strokes as I go and switch sides. And just varying little strokes. You want to keep some highlights, which is where the cream comes in nicely. Which is part of the reason why I run the water over the paper when I get to the blending part as well, to keep some of those. I found while the paper stamp, you can go back in and blend things a little bit as well. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up his or her. Haven't decided. Doesn't matter. The bottom of the elephant here. Just moisten up the paper a little bit. Going to dark gray. dark gray. If you want to add in more texture, consider just putting in dots. I believe some of the elephants actually have almost freckles. Actually, it might be freckles, especially around their face. Ours will have freckles when we get to that stage. I'm so tempted to do the lines of the water right now, but I'm not going to. I've picked up dark gray, so let's go with that. Continue onward here a little bit. I will go back and do black underneath here, just as a little bit of foreshadowing for you. Okay, so this here is going to be water, so don't mistake that for the elephant. I almost did myself. Going to light gray. I'm going to go to black. I like to cap my black because, especially when I'm working with these darker colors, they end up all looking the same to me. Just kind of using a feather as a model to get some of this color. Going to dark gray. And carry some of this that way. Think about ridges and creases when you sit as well. This is why I love watercolor. Even if you seemingly make a mistake, you're not really. It's gonna come out super cool sometimes. I'm clumsy. So you see I've dropped things multiple times. All right, let me come back to the front of this elephant's ear. We will do a dark gray. Light gray. And kind of follow the curve of your elephant's face. I feel like I want to name my elephant, and I'm thinking I'd like to name her Sally today. So from here on, my elephant will be Sally. Part of me wants to give her some jewels, so I may allow myself to do that and leave this area open to do some of that. Dark gray. Water. Dark gray. I'll switch to black to get underneath Sally's chin. Oh, I almost used my other painting technique with my fingers for a minute there. I'm so used to finger painting and blending that way. If you haven't tried, I'll use this as a plug-in. If you haven't tried one of my finger painting kits, I highly recommend them. It's very therapeutic, much like this is. All right, I like the way Sally's looking. I wanted her face to dry a little bit so I could do some freckles in here. This is the dark gray. Light gray. So keep in mind for around the face, I don't know if you contour at all when you do your makeup, if you wear makeup, keep in mind that you can do lighter underneath the eyes. Following the curve of the tusk, trunk, tusks are down here. Just using some swirling motions. I'm just going to carry some water into the other part of her trunk. Light gray. Dark gray. Side to side technique here. Dark gray still. Very light pressure. So part of the reason I like to do the side-to-side technique is because I'm never going to pretend like I draw these by hand, guys. Not a machine, but a machine does do them. And so I don't want things to look artificial. I do like sharp lines, but doing the side-to-side technique, I feel like gives you a little bit more of a natural look. You know, she's not going to get jewels today. Maybe on a different Sally. We'll give her some jewels to fill this in. Give her some more freckles. A little bit of water goes a long way, remember. If you come back and look it over on your other pieces and you, like, I don't really like the way that's turned out in the beginning. I was a little nervous when I started the video, not going to pretend. So, I will want to add some more texture. Before things get too dry. That was dark gray. I'm kind of like pushing down. Okay. I think I need some more shadow there, going to dark gray. I think I'm going to do black for the smile piece right here. I do not want to lose her expression, that's for sure. When I saw her on my program, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to use her. She's too cute. I may add a little bit of pink in underneath the eye. That's just what is kind of speaking to me here. Let me find the lightest pink I can. Actually, maybe this, I don't know exactly what kind of purple. Maybe it's more like a mauve. Let's do a little bit of mauve, a couple of dots under here. See how that goes when we water it down. Because it'll foreshadow the color a little bit too that we're going to bring in. Always tone it back down with the gray. There we go. I like the look of that. Add just a little bit of color, especially since, I don't know, with this, again, I thought she was laughing and giggling, especially since she's farting in the water, so that just works for me completely. Let's go ahead and finish up this trunk. Oh, make sure you clean off your, again, I made that one a little whoopsie. I'm not worried about it. Again, Bob Rossing it. And make sure your bristles are clean before you continue to blend. This will blend in just fine. Light gray. I'm just kind of using sweeping motions, imagining this is 3D, just little almost comma-like item strokes. I will do dark here in just a minute. Dark gray. I want to say the underside of the elephant's trunk is pink as well, so I may need to, I think I'll stick with the mauve. I like that look. Water. Light gray. Dark gray. I'm going to get some speckles in. This is going to be green, so I want to leave that open to do that. Water. And I'm just going to go ahead and lightly water the underside of her trunk because I do want to come in with the mauve. Just a couple of drops. And I'm going to switch over to the black for a minute to kind of soften up some of that mauve up there. so I've thought more about it, and I'm going to go ahead and finish up Sally's back here. I'm going to use my dark gray and very light strokes. And weave in a little bit of light gray as well. You can always start light and get darker. All right, I like the way she's coming out so far. Gonna dampen up her inside of her mouth a little bit. Do a couple drops of mauve. Come in with the dark gray. Use a little bit of that scribbly back and forth, very light technique. I'm going to go back to the dark gray and come underneath her lip. Just a couple of drops of mauve as well. These are lips after all. Clean off your bristles. All right. Not sure what I'm going to do with the tusks just yet, so I'm going to skip those. I don't always plan things out when I do my videos. I like to do the projects because I'm actually going to use them. All right, let me cap up my gray because I'm going to be done with that for a minute. I think I actually want to start with green, so On this one, I'm going to slightly dampen it. It also helps you kind of figure out and establish where you want to put your leaves in. I may go free range too and do some over here, at least one leaf, but haven't decided yet. I'm going to do a foresty, deeper green, light strokes. Water. And clean off your bristles. So I want my edges to be darker. That's where the dark mauve is going to come in. And I think I'll do the dark first, and then I'll do probably a water technique over the petals first, just so that I can control how much darkness is going there. But for the mauve, again, the outside, I'm good with it being darker, but I'm still going to do a couple of dots. These colors are very rich. I think this might be called stippling. I just like that it gives you control. I never got too hung up on names, even when I was an English teacher. Little tiny circles. And because I want to accomplish a watered down version of this color, I will not be cleaning off the tip of my blending water brush. I am going to add a little bit more water to it. And following the shape of the petal itself, which should give me the color I'm looking to achieve, which is a very light blushy color. And since it's not quite there, we can always go back in and add a little bit of color, very, very lightly. And I do want to leave a little bit of the cream for that highlight. Yeah, it's speaking me to do another little something right about here. I'm not worried about the color. It's going to be green in just a minute, just so you can kind of see it. It needs some wings. No idea the shape of a lotus blossom petal. I feel like they exist on lily pads, but I'm not 100% certain. Haven't read up a bunch about that. but it doesn't matter, was my point, as this is, for me, watercolor is abstract. Add a little bit more texture in while it's damp. And that'll be good for my flower. Make sure you clean off the ends of your bristles. Alright, so I decided on the tusks. These are going to stay as cream or white as I'd like them to, as well as that little tiny space there. And everything around here will be a very, very light gray. Very, very light. And the finest line is what I'm going to start off with, as close to the outside perimeter as I can. I'm going to use a lot more water from the pen on this one. Make sure your tip is clean. And just drag the color down as you go along. Get a little bit of the gray off, and you can kind of blend in the colors just a little bit to soften up the starkness. All right, and that's good for me.